All right, cool. Oh, there we go. There we are. Hi, how are you? On this very nice, sunny New York afternoon. You know, I said that the winter was slow and departing, and then the summer just said, hello, here we are. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Brandice Daniel. I am the CEO and founder of Harlem's Fashion Row. That's a company I've had for 12 years now. What we do is we work with multicultural fashion designers, introducing them to the industry, introducing them to press and business opportunities. Some of you may have heard of the Nike LeBron shoe last year, the only shoe that's ever been designed, one of his shoes that's been designed for women by women. And we worked with 3 multicultural designers for that project. So that was a really exciting moment for us. And we have a few more exciting moments coming up actually in the next week. So I encourage you to please follow us at Harlem's Fashion Row so that you can find out about those. But I am so extremely excited to be here. Thank you so much, Matches Fashion, for having us. I am actually wearing 2 pieces for Matches. My shoes, my pants, which are Wales Bonner, and my shoes, which of course are by Gucci. And that's a conversation all on its own. You guys are wondering, why am I wearing Gucci? That's a whole nother conversation. I'm actually having a meeting with them tomorrow. I would love, that's a second panel, okay? But for this one, I am gonna have all of the panelists introduce themselves. And if you guys could just let us know your name, who you are, where you work, and what role do you have where you work right now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Khalia Braxton. I am currently at Condé Nast on our social video team. And basically, I run social video across all brands. So that includes Vogue, Teen Vogue, Glamour, Allure, GQ. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Khalia.
So my name is Trey Denis. I am a designer at Maisonatia, and I also have my own label, Denis Fashion Group. At Maisonatia, we are a luxury faux fur company, so we're designing faux furs that feel in the heritage of real fur. So we're using a lot of the same techniques and things like that. So it's me and my creative director, Chloe Mendel, and we go and produce our collections in New York City.
Awesome. Thank you, Trey. And Sacsha?
Hi, I'm Sacsha Flowers. I'm from Alexander Wang. I'm the creative talent manager over there. It's a hybrid role that I do. I do the talent acquisition part for the designers, as well as the professional development. I worked in the industry for 10 plus years as a designer myself and decided to make the transition into advising young fashion students and then now recruiting them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're talking about the future of fashion, and there's no way to really talk about the future of fashion without talking about digital and how the internet, digital, and social media is playing such a major role in where fashion is headed. And for some retailers, they're really kind of freaking out right now, trying to figure out, you know, where do we go from here? Where do we fit in this landscape that's changing so fast? Khalia, I'll start with you. In the media landscape, how do you see things changing and evolving in the digital space?
As it relates to fashion.
As it relates to fashion.
I think that a bunch of designers and brands will understand that people are excited about shopping, but really online e-commerce is like a big deal. And so brands are learning like, okay, we have these great shops and pop-up shops and locations, but how do we get people to be engaged with our brand online? And then how do we make people feel like they are part of who we are so that they want to, you know, like not today I go get something from Gucci and then like next week I don't remember who Gucci is. So figuring out how do you get people to identify and feel like they are part of who you are with your online presence.
And how have you guys been able to kind of connect the dots for brands with Condé Nast?
I think a bunch of the editors, their focus would be just basically telling their story, right? So if a brand sends something over and they're like, oh, you know, here, you have this free new jacket, but like, what does that mean? It's just not a free jacket. How do you get people, your followers, the magazine followers to really say, yeah, I'm feeling that jacket, like Nike just designed that, and I too want to go and purchase that. So I think, you know, creating fun, real life experiences, not like new jacket, tag Nike, and then that's it. Like, no, this is me wearing my new jacket at this panel, or this is me going about my regular day at Coachella and I have my new jacket on. Like showing the experience that one could have if they were attached to this brand or, you know, being a part of what the brand is offering.
Awesome. And Trey, I know that you graduated from Parsons 3 years ago.
Yes, correct.
how have you kind of seen the landscape change from when you were a student at Parsons to now working in-house for a brand?
Yeah, well, I think that at Parsons, our professors and the entire curriculum was kind of hinting to this change in the industry, and that they really wanted us to go and focus in on how do you go and represent yourself digitally. You know, a lot of firstly, we're in a global world now, so it's not like we're only thinking about representing ourselves to our city that we live in. We're thinking about representing ourselves to the world, different cultures and things like that. So it was a large part of my teaching, and then going into my career, 100%, I saw that digital was extremely pushing force for us, and especially that I think it was something that is a blessing that I was able to work for smaller companies that really wanted to go and have good relationships with friends with the house that were influencers, who were people that felt like it was our girl, that we would go and be able to have those people that were engaging with potential other customers, wearing our things, etc.
How do you connect though with do you guys have millennial consumers where you are now? Because I know you work with only for faux fur. And for those of you who don't know the brand that he works for, this is Jay Mendel's daughter, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, who started a faux fur line. And so isn't that interesting? But so I know, do you guys, is the millennial audience like a main target for you with the faux fur? And how do you create that real authentic connection with them?
It is. I think the millennials is completely something that we want to go and focus in on, as in they are going to be the future customers. And also the millennials, we want to go and get the millennials and feel like this is my brand, it feels like me, I want to go and stay connected with it, because as you grow older and you'll be able to go and actually aspire to wearing the clothes that we wear, because it is very expensive, and what we're trying to go and do is create more bridge garments so we can go and actually be able to go and target millennials, because we are a luxury faux fur company, so we're not an H&M brand where you can go and get a $100 faux coat.
So you guys put in a bridge category.
We're beginning to try to think of bridge categories to go and get millennials, yes.
Okay, awesome. And Sacsha's had a very interesting career in that she works for Alexander Wang now, but she actually worked at Parsons between the designers who were in their design department and the recruiting or the career office, right? Yeah. And same question applies to you in terms of what are some things that you guys are doing right now at Alexander Wang, and kind of what do you see the difference being from when you worked at Parsons working with students then, and how they were thinking about approaching the market from okay, we're headed towards the future, because design is changing, and now you don't have to have a big brand to become a very profitable brand. If you know how to do things right on digital, you can really kind of develop your own customer base. So how are you guys guiding those students, and what's the difference between your role there and your role at Alexander Wang?
So kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that were said here. So with Trey, him being a student as an advisor, they called us success advisors at the time over there, where we were academic and career advisors. So it was a holistic approach to advising. Me having the career experience, I was able to bring in a personal touch and just basically say, listen, this is what the recruiters from these major companies are going to be looking for. Where do you want to work? Where do you see yourself? And then how can you kind of mold your talent to fit that company? Because at the end of the day, yes, they want to see your version, but how can you mold to them? So now in the recruiter seat, this is the very interesting part. It's how can I look at a candidate in a timely manner, something that's quick, that says, listen, do you fit the brand's identity? And, if so, where could you fit in? So I would say that sort of is the holistic approach, and me seeing the differences. So a lot of what I would tell students is now what I'm seeing over on the other side of things. In terms of the recruitment space and technology, I don't know if there's anything that's fully been fleshed out and developed yet to make the process a bit quicker. Outside of, I'm kind of newly into the role, but I feel like it's more of building personal relationships. It's kind of going back to the basics and building personal relationships with those recruiting agencies or the design schools, and saying, listen, can you give me a good list of your top talent? And from there, let's try to see what we can work out. Right now, we look at the academic calendar. Students are about to graduate. Okay, who is the next top talent that's coming out of there, and where can we create these spaces for opportunity? they're definitely at the forefront, I would say, in sort of pushing the fashion forward in terms of like what we should be thinking about, the youth culture that a lot of these legacy companies are still trying to tap into. So I always say start with the entry-level talent, and then you'll find the path.
And even how your role was created, do you mind sharing that?
Sure.
Okay.
So it was a newly created role, which I found very interesting, which was what kind of took me to Alexander Wang. Again, adding to the holistic approach, they have me doing the design recruiting part as well as the professional development part for design exclusively. So again, coming from my experience in the industry and kind of understanding what it takes to be a creative. Take design aside, what it takes to really be a creative, what it takes to get that person inspired and engaged in their work. There are different type of a talent, I would say, of a person that's on sort of the business side of a brand. So I really loved the role, and I thought that, I had actually never heard of a role like this, and someone that they didn't hire that is based in HR, because I'm definitely not an HR professional, and I definitely don't speak the same language, but I thought that it was amazing, and I feel like more companies, whether they're in design or outside of design, should do this.
I love that. As we're talking about, there's so much talk about inclusiveness right now. That's a really big conversation that's happening in fashion right now. Where do you see the industry going in terms of, like, what has your experience been in this industry as an African-American woman, woman, and how do you see this industry embracing inclusiveness more?
Starting with
Yeah, sure.
Well, I would just say my first break in the industry was my senior year maybe, in college. And Brandice let me be her intern. In a very weird way, I walked up to her. She was ready to go, and I was just like, I need to talk to you. And her husband's like, we have to get in the car. And I'm like, no, I need to talk to you. And she told one of her other interns to put her on the call. And I didn't know what that meant, but I think that was like my break, I would say, in the industry. And Brandice allowed me to bring my marketing experience to her, but she allowed me to figure out what worked for me in fashion. And so I played around. I knew that I was interested in social because I believe that, it's great to have this experience, but what about other people who are not invited in this room? They too should be able to experience this. And the way you do that is via social and digital opportunities. So I started running social with Brandice, and I was just like, yeah, I love this. I'm showcasing all of the designers, their collections, and I'm figuring out we post this on HFR, but how do you use discovery hashtags to get people who don't even follow HFR, don't know anything about it, to see what it is that we're bringing forth.
Hold on, do you guys know what discovery hashtags are?
Okay. Rewind.
Are you right? Because I have to make sure. Okay.
So
what's that?
discovery hashtags are the hashtags that you see when you ever see someone post and then they do dot,
yeah.
and then there are a bunch of hashtags? That allows people who do not follow the page to see this content if they're searching one of those hashtags. So an easy way out would be hashtag fashion. Annoying. That has a million pieces of content under that hashtag. So maybe hashtag matches fashion or fashion with matches, that, something very specific that would allow others to see your content. So I was able to use HFR's Instagram to figure out how that ever worked, and it worked. So that's that. But
and then you went on and you worked for a beauty brand.
Yes.
Right?
So then I moved forward and
used the hashtag.
Right. So after graduation, I went on and I worked for L'Oreal for one of their hair professional brands and professional hair brands, and I ran social, and that was I would say where I really learned the impact that social media has on a brand. Because here's how this goes: if you don't go to the hair salon, in my case, you would not use my brand's product. So how do you get people to go into the hair salon and ask for my brand's product? You literally have to have a license to purchase this. So we would find people who are already using it. Let's say I worked for a brand called Matrix. Let's say you got balayage, you did a balayage, and I want to figure out, everybody knows what balayage is? You hear? Okay. So let's say you got a new balayage and it's all good and you want people to know I got it done with Brandice. we would go find your hair, find your photo, use it, ask you, hey, can we use it, and then hashtag the products that you use from our brand. So now, when other people are searching Matrix or shampoo or conditioner, our post would pop up. So that's how I use digital and like hashtagging and figuring out how social works with the brand, and then how do you get people to be engaged with that.
Awesome. And in terms of being a multicultural woman in this industry, what has that experience been like for you, and how do you think the industry is moving forward? Do you see things getting better?
Okay, so I feel like the industry is moving forward. However, to be extremely frank, I feel like it is extremely trendy to be inclusive.
Woke.
Woke. I hate the word woke because I feel like I would like to say that I'm not woke, because to be woke means it's a form of privilege. Like, you understand something because it doesn't apply to you, but you get it. And for me, I don't have that privilege. I get it because it is my everyday story. It is how I experience life. So I do think that brands are trying to be more inclusive. However, it's a little trendy, and so the way that they're going about it may not be the best way, which is like, once they already have a problem, they then invite us in to say, how do we fix this problem, instead of allowing us to be in the room and in those spaces when making decisions. I think that if you are truly for the people and want people to experience your brand or your company, you would make sure that you have different people in the room who experience life differently in different ways, so that when the decisions are made, that okay, well, this may offend this person, and we should be careful because this could happen, literally, because you have informed opinions. So I just think, yes, brands are being inclusive, and it's great, but the way they're doing it is only because of the backlash that social puts out there.
Love it. Trey, as a designer, you have a beautiful line. So I met Trey maybe 5 years ago. He had this gorgeous, gorgeous collection. And I'm actually going to pivot a little bit. What made you decide to go in-house for a brand versus pursuing your brand exclusively?
I like that question. One, fashion is, well, firstly, we are visual people, and I think that the things that we see, that we visually see, is what we expect as like what is like socially like the norm. And if you go and look at fashion, and like you say, if you go back just like 2 years before, fashion had a very specific look of who worked in the industry, who wore the clothes, who were the people who were friends of the house. It wasn't as inclusive where, you have Cardi B having an opportunity to wear something couture and then throwing the shoe, on television. What I'm saying is that even though that's wild and like an extreme, but what we're saying is that we're seeing a lot of different people participate in the fashion industry. And when you're able to go and see that, it allows for more people to go and actually feel like, okay, I can actually go and have a part in this space. I mean, just thinking about like something as simple as Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil was a fashion designer, and it was very much a very like idealized of like the house, of who was in there, who was designing. And it's like, well, you're showing that to children. And I was a kid who was interested in fashion at a very young age, so I didn't even see myself in a Disney movie. Right. So it's just like all that affects you. So going back on, do you go and start your own company, or do you go and work for someone who's looking at me? That's the issue. Who's actually looking at me? And so I was saying, well, I would prefer to work for someone who's looked at. Because at least I'm getting my work out. I'm having some sort of voice, even if it is behind someone else. And also, I just think that the fashion industry, back of what you're saying, it's largely about when you're trying to get positions, it's really about making connections. And if the connections are very specific to a certain group, then it's only going to be getting pulled from that group. So I had to go and maneuver with the help of many people who worked in the industry, who understood the struggle of really looking out for me and like taking out a lot of time to go and connect me with people who could possibly help. I mean, I'm really blessed in that sense, and that's why I'm here today. So I personally think as a designer, like, I'm not like really just doing this for me. It's like something so much larger, and it's like literally allowing little boys who are 4 years old, just like me, who are sketching, to feel like, oh well, there are actually people who could do this who look like me.
That's amazing. Thank you for that, Trey.
Yeah.
Sacsha, as you're looking at designers, and you're looking at designers who can fill into like the next 10 years, or are you even looking that far out? Are you assuming that when you hire a designer, they're going to stay there for 3 years, 5 years? What are some of the qualities that you're looking for in fashion students?
Got it. To stay 10 years, I'm not really sure if designers stay that long. I think the lifespan of a designer at a company is roughly 2 to 3 years, and then they're ready to move on to their next big thing. And especially when you're in like a luxury fashion house, it's like, can I see myself through this show? Get my work up on that stage, get the recognition I need? Do I feel that I can fulfill whatever that other creative need is going forward or not? Is money a factor, whatever? And then that's when they either choose to leave. So one of the things that I look for, to kind of go back to the question, in a design talent, it would just have to be sort of uniqueness, a new perspective on what's going out there in the world. Because to me, nothing is necessarily new under the sun, it's just redone. And how are you redoing it, and is it in tune with the wave of the rest of the world in fashion and what's going on? Is it too ahead of its time, or is it just in time? So it's really looking for that talent that really can understand that, and then also, of course, because of the brand that I represent, can have a nuance of the brand in it. Because you don't want to push it too far, but then at the same time, you want to push it just enough to where it makes it new again. So a good example of this could be, say if you're looking at an accessory designer and you think about trend overall, the fanny pack. When you think about the lifestyle of a fanny pack, it's what, 3-4 years now it's been in the industry? What is the next big thing? So if we could find that next designer who actually is in tune with where that next step is going to go and is like ahead of that curve to bring us to where we need to be, that's the talent that we're looking for.
I love that.
Can I also just offer that? And like going in there, I think that like a lot of fashion companies are like really like, I think a lot of people who are like into fashion can see that like, we're like, where's like everything at? I think that everyone's trying to figure it out, and I think it's because they are actually exhausted with the stories that are being put out by the designers. So I think that inclusion, voila, becomes your actual solving that, because you have people who are coming from, I'm coming from a black male from the South. I'm quite certain that there's stories that will not be anywhere close, or something that you would think of a small mundane issue in life and create a collection off of it. So that just causes excitement. So I think that it's not only just about African Americans, it's about Asian Americans. I mean, it's about everyone. It's about your sexuality. It's about your religion. If you have religion or not, I think that everyone should truly have representation in design houses. I mean, designers' jobs are to solve problems. And people have to come with problems for us to go and solve them. So it should be in the house.
If I may kind of interject with the inclusion piece too, I feel that, going back to your part of the woke thing, I do feel like it's definitely a trend now that everybody's jumped on a bandwagon. It didn't start as a trend. It was definitely street culture, subcultures that were starting this movement, and very empowered, knowledgeable, knew where they came from, and then it bubbled up like any trend. But I think what people are looking for, what consumers are looking for, is authenticity.
Yes.
That's really what's missing.
Yes.
It's like if brands are going to jump on and feature a culture, and to me, culture should be celebrated. It's not even about appropriation. It's more about just celebrating cultures that are out there, but respecting at the same time, respecting where they come from. And I get very emotional thinking about it. It's like allowing that person to have a seat at the table to speak. If you're going to use that cloth from my motherland, this is what it means, and this is the appropriate way to use it. Those types of conversations, I feel, are sort of missing from the conceptualized process.
So that's what I think. So when we launched last year, and we launched a shoe with Nike and LeBron James, one of the things that that kept coming back over and over again, and people said, this feels so real. The story feels so real. We haven't felt anything that felt like this authentic in so long. And it was because it was the real story. It was my real story. It was the designer's real story. And it wasn't like a manufactured like storyline that we were coming up with. And because it was so real and it was our life experiences, it came through in everything. And everything about that project felt so different and so special because it was so authentic to who we really were. And I don't think that that's something that no one can ever fake authenticity. That sounds crazy, right? Like you can't fake that. That is something that you can see through it a mile away. You know,
down after that point.
Right. And people really bought into the story. I mean, the shoot was nice, but really it was the story that people were buying into, the stories of these designers who had worked so hard, who had such a challenging time, and who had gotten this new opportunity that meant so much to them. And you could feel it through every single video, and then it sold out in 5 minutes. Why? Because we were telling a real story of these women's lives, and the shoe was literally just threaded through that story. Awesome. I don't know where I'm at with time. Do I have time to ask another question, or do we open it up to the audience at this point? Who am I looking at? Oh, awesome. Thank you. I'm like, what are you guys looking forward to right now with the future of fashion? I saw an ad the other day. I feel like so many things are moving towards like, okay, we'll ship you a whole bunch of clothes, and with those clothes, you pick what you want, and then you ship back, you know, whatever you don't want. Are you guys seeing a lot of that right now where people are, what are you guys looking for, and what are you seeing right now where you think, okay, I see this is where, you know, there could be just one thing, I see this is where things are headed. Is there something that you're seeing on the media side?
Yeah, I think streetwear is a big deal, and
You don't think it's done?
Wait,
Because it's been around for a long
I was
time
going to say,
now.
and I think that the story is being carried, but it's a little tired the way it's being carried because the people whoever is behind it doesn't even really understand what story they should be telling. You know, so it's cool. I'm up here in a suit. This is great. But in real life, I really like some track pants, cool sneakers, and like an oversized tee in big shades. Like, it's a vibe. Like, and I think that with streetwear, we look at designers or artists, rappers, and we think, okay, they're doing it, so this is it. But that's actually not what's happening. You have to go into communities where people are really like, why do women wear these big door knocker earrings? And like, what does a puffer jacket really mean? What's a real one versus what the smaller brands are creating and putting in the stores? So I think that streetwear is a cool thing. I love it, always a fan. But I really wish that the fashion industry would take some time to really understand what streetwear really looks like, and then run with it. And then a part of doing that would be inclusivity, and then cultural appreciation before cultural appropriation. So, you know, we're upset with the designers who are like, I can't shout one out, but let's just say there's one designer that really likes to take clothes that like you'd probably wear to throw out your garbage, and then, you know, it's a big deal and the shirt is $500. But if that person would really tell you or tell the story behind why that very comfortable, chill, ungathered, put together look is a thing for him or her, maybe people would be more into supporting that line. So I just wish that fashion would take these little opportunities that are becoming big and really tell the true stories behind them, and then include some people that could help them understand.
I love that. And then from a media space and from the digital, since you've worked on, you do all of Condé Nast digital, right?
Yeah. So basically, my team is social video, and when you see different brands like GQ come out with a video, my team may chop it up and make it, optimize it for social, so that the brand and the platform can monetize it. We'll monetize the video, and then you know how that goes in digital. So I think the most fashion brand we have would be GQ, and I think that they honestly just allow celebrities to come in and be themselves and tell their authentic story. I think GQ does a very good job at doing that. So like if 2 Chainz or Migos come in, they're not, they'll come in the way they are. Like, you know, if 2 Chainz comes in with like a big jacket and like overalls, like no one is telling him like what to do. They're just gonna get him in his element and let the story carry itself.
I love that.
Yeah.
And do you think that's where things are going forward in a digital space, specifically when it comes to video and social media?
I do. I think that brands all over, and not just fashion brands, understand that you have to let influencers or people who already know what they're talking about tell the story, because they're going to do it in the most authentic way, and then allow other people to connect with the brand in a way that the brand per se may not be able to.
Awesome. Sacsha, I'm going to go to you. Okay. What do you see next in terms of like the future fashion? Something you're excited about and looking forward to?
Oh. To be honest with you, it's more smaller designers. One that sticks out to me is actually a good friend of mine. Her name is Brenda Ekiwa, and she has a line called Ekiwa. She is a Mexican-American designer, and it's, again, going back off the authenticity. She actually created these typical Mexican blanket jackets. You might have heard of her line. And she took the blanket and turned them into jackets, bags, and everything. So she's taking a piece from her culture and her life, and she's really putting it into her work. But then it is a sense of street fashion, where to me that authenticity definitely comes from, because it's really like, what is your everyday vibe? What are you wearing? What are you pulling in from your culture? And all of us have it. It's just where are we pulling those references from?
Right.
And it's less glamorized. It's how are we going to put this together and make it more original?
Awesome. Yeah. Trey, same question.
I think that I'm like most interested in fashion right now and the many directions that fashion is trying to go. I think what's important is green efforts in fashion. I think as a designer, I've worked on it with China for production, so I like go to China with a previous company. We would go to China to go and do production, and literally there was a day where we couldn't go to the factory because all the factories were closed down because the smog was too bad. And it's just like, I remember leaving, I was boarding the plane, and it was the same. It's just like so smoggy, and I like literally felt tears rolling down my face. I was just like, oh, well, it's nice for me to just go and pick up and leave and go back to America and like breathe fresh air. And to think that I'm already given this order to go and just produce another black pump, you know, it's just like, I just think that it's kind of silly. And it's something socially that we need to break out of just as humans, that like we have to stop consuming fashion in the way that we do. We need to be more smart about it. We need to go and invest in clothes that may not be cheap or disposable, but it's something that you will probably go and pass on to your daughter or your son or something like that, something that's going to go and live with you. And I also think that fashion needs to slow down. Like there's so many seasons. It's like spring. It's just like, I mean, it's too much to actually consume. It's all going on sell racks or a knockoff store or a discount store. And it's like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? So I just think that we should go and make what we need versus just.
I love it.
Yeah.
And what are you excited about?
That was what I was excited about. I think that also as a company, we're working towards faux fur that is eco-friendly, that's using recycled plastic bottles and turning it into fur. So we're not creating material from plastic, because that's not solving anything. We have so much of plastic that's floating around. Let's collect it and make something that's going to keep you warm in the winter. So that's something that we always want to focus in on, is always what is new in materials that are eco-friendly.
I love it. Thank you, guys. I want to open it up for our audience to ask a few questions. Nothing's off limits. Don't you all raise your hands at the same time. You can ask anything.
Is orange the new black?
I think
This
so.
was not planned.
It wasn't planned.
This wasn't planned. We did not talk about what we were wearing before we got here. But clearly, look at what you're wearing.
Sorry, I just had to say that. Excuse me. By the way, I'm an orange too.
Yes. Think alike.
But
This was totally unplanned.
you don't all have to say what you're wearing, but you're welcome to. But I'm curious what that says on your. Is that your design? And
It isn't.
is it inspired by any artist? I'm curious.
Okay, so the designer, her name is Junie. She is a Harlem native. She makes jumpsuits and caftans. She's great. Probably all of us have probably had a Junie. She's great. And she also pulls from, like African cloths and things like that. And it's not like, where you see on the fabric made in China. No, she's actually going and getting things imported. And she's also working towards making clothes that are already based off of existing things. So going and finding, like old jumpsuits like this or stuff like that were recycled, redesigning them and restyling them, and it's great. And I mean, I love stuff like that. I think that's what's exciting about fashion right now.
I have a caftan from her that I love.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Hello. Thank you so much, all of you, for your astute comments and observations. Maybe going back to a theme in the very beginning, when I think the talk was about influence of digital media, and basically for stores and maybe for all of us in fashion or even in art, it's taking basically a 3D object that you want to touch, feel, and wear, and getting an audience to be attracted to it in a two-dimensional medium, i.e. the internet. So how do stores or how does a fashion 3D kind of brand become more exciting? Is it really videos? Like before we started with pictures and now we're going to video. Anything else, or how do you curate that website?
That's a great question.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, yeah.
I could tell you're like.
I would, okay. So let's just make this announcement. Video is it.
Yeah.
Like, video is it across the board, okay? I can take a photo of this outfit and post it. My friends will do one of two things. The way people interact on social, they do one or two things, right? So if it's a video, they may look at it, but they may necessarily not like it. They may not double tap. But if it's a photo, they'll just double tap and keep scrolling, right? So you want to create an experience for them, because if it looks nice, that's nice, and they'll double tap and keep going. But if you produce video or some type of interaction, stop motion, a boomerang, something, it just allows them to like really feel like, oh, okay, maybe I can do that, or I can see myself being a part of that. And so I would say, like at Condé, one thing that my team noticed that really works for us is, again, video, but allowing, how do you get people to feel connected? You sometimes have to put an influence, like what influencer works with that. I will say personally that I do not think that influencers are always the way to go, and here's why. Because the world, we know that these people are being paid for it, right? So if I have 50K followers, you know that I'm not promoting this jacket because I love it that much. You know that this brand sent it to me and I got a check to talk about it. So how does the brand figure out how to give me that jacket still and have me create an experience from my followers who I do have influence on to participate and be a part of that brand's product? And my answer would be, you need to tell a story, right? So once you send me that jacket, don't send me that jacket and ask that I post with it on and me unboxing it. Send it to me and send me somewhere in the jacket, or let me come to a dinner hosted by the brand, and I wear that jacket to the dinner. Like, now I'm showing people what life is like when I'm attached to this brand or this object. But you need to create an experience. Plus, video is monetizable. A picture, you paid the photographer to produce it, you paid the editor to edit it, and now that's it. But if you monetize your video, the platform makes money, the brand makes money, everyone's happy.
Oh. Did that answer your question?
Did it? Yes?
No?
No.
Yes or no?
Maybe it's a follow-up.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't been to Alexander Wang's website.
Yeah.
Do you have exactly the kind of like video content she's talking about? And for you, Trey, are you now thinking that way for the faux furs once you're as part of the strategy to get it?
Okay, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, it's a similar mentality. I feel the market follows every market. Right now, Instagram is huge in terms of just, I'm definitely not like a digital person, but them even adding in the Shop Now website and the scroll up feature and like the Instagram stories. And then I know that Alex, he actually does, if you go to his page, he does an Ask Alex type of questionnaire to where he personalizes it a bit, where people will ask him little things about his collection and he actually responds to the questions. So I think it's more of like consumers feeling like they want to know the person behind the brand. They want that personal touch, and then being able to, at the fingertips, just purchase that item if they want to and be the first to get it, especially if it's a limited edition item. So I think that's the way that they're using technology. But if I had to say from like a design standpoint, from what I see from the designers, and maybe you can follow it back up, there definitely are like software programs that are moving ahead in time. I feel that AI is going to take over and it's going to be a full 3D experience, whether you walk inside of a store and don't have that action. Maybe there's like one sample made and it's like, I want to try it on, and you can visually try it, or AI try it on somehow. I think that's going to be really sort of like the future of fashion and where we see it going, and then maybe customization.
Yeah, I agree that that's where it's going. I think I kind of fear that, because I think that there's something like that. It's a bit like lackluster about like just receiving something in like a box. So I think that for a designer and for a house, you know for a fact that like e-commerce is definitely something that you need to go and participate in. So from once you open up that terrible brown box, then where's the excitement? You know, like, are you going and having personalized notes telling, you know, your customer, hey, thanks for this purchase, would love to go and see you wear it on social media to see how you style it. Getting them involved, it makes you feel like, you know, that what you're missing in going to a boutique and having someone say, oh, would you like champagne, and do you need, you know, you miss that, but you're still paying a lot of money for something that's luxury. So I think for us, we always try to say, how can we go and really personalize that, make someone feel like as though they are still having a boutique experience, although it's in the comfort of your own home. So things of how we package it, little freebies that might be given away, bumper stickers, things that we go and give as promotionals, things like that. I think it excites the customer. It makes them go and remember the experience, and they'll come back.
Awesome.
What is something that you wish you knew when you started in the fashion industry, and how has that changed to what you tell people who are now starting in the fashion industry?
That's good. Sacsha, you want to start?
I wish I knew my personal impact on the world and the internal voice that I have and how I wanted to display it, and the brands that I wanted to work for that could help me get that voice out. I didn't know being a student. At the end of the day, I was, you know, at Parsons, and I wasn't necessarily the rich kid coming through the program, and I was afraid. I was afraid to take those journeys where I could go study abroad, and I can go to Paris and London, and I always wanted to work in London but never made it out there. So I would say to a person going into the industry, no matter what your economic background is, take those opportunities. There's always something out there for you. And then as far as like starting a business, because I thought about starting my own fashion line, but to go back to something that was said earlier, I was told by a professor who I would never forget from Parsons, make your mistakes on somebody else's dollar. Coming out of school, you know who I'm talking about. Coming out of school, you don't know anything. You're too green. You know what I mean? You're green. Even if you have mommy and daddy that own factories, home, whatever, I don't care. Learn what you need to learn from the industry. Soak it up. It's more than just hard skills. It's soft skills. It's how to network. It's how to interact with the who's who's in the fashion industry. Getting that tough armor, because there's going to be a bunch of no's. So I feel that when I used to advise young students, as talented as they were, I would definitely try to tell them, listen, at least for your first year out, try to work somewhere where you can at least gain that knowledge and experience and expertise from an industry level. And then the sky's the limit is after that.
I think what I hope that I knew, and I think I knew, I just wasn't like, I didn't want to believe it fully of that there's no right path in fashion. I think that largely people, like, if you haven't landed those major internships in college, then like you're screwed. Just try something else. Go back to college. And I mean, that's not, everyone doesn't get that fairy tale story of, he hit the ground running. And that was definitely my story. I, didn't get the cool internships, but I got the internships that, in retrospect, were the internships that I needed. That I was actually able to go and engage and actually do work instead of just, pulling out threads or like, I was actually doing work. So I would say, in the words of a mentor of mine, do the good work. Just do the good work of just like literally just go and push towards what you want. And doors will open, people will go and see it and they'll notice it. That's something that I wish I knew earlier on, because I think that it was rough many moments of life, just like literally being told no, trying to get jobs, jobs that valued me and things like that. But I pushed towards constantly getting where I needed to be, and I think it's just something that everyone who works in design really needs to hear, that, or works in the fashion industry. It's tough, and it's a job that a lot of people, it's become a very trendy job to have, so it's a large pool of very talented people. So you have to be really committed.
Definitely.
I would just say that I wish I knew how, piggybacking off of what you said, how tough it was to really get into fashion. I wish I knew that it wasn't just what I saw online and like on TV. Like, it is not that, actually, way past it. Actually, I worked one Fashion Week show, and I just knew I was going to look great and I didn't even have on lip gloss for this fashion show. So that was a knock on the door. But I wish I did know that, and I was prepared for the no's. And then I also wish that I honed in on why I wanted to work in fashion, because when I did, a little later, I realized that I was more interested on being on the other side and helping the Treys and the brands tell their story through digital. Like, how do you get these big publications and magazines or even online spaces to even cover Trey's actual line? And like, how do you get people to interact with different designers that they may not know? So I would tell my younger self to slow down and do the work, but also do my research. And yeah, but I guess it didn't pan out all the way. Like, my story isn't finished being written, but I'm happy that I did have those experiences, because now, moving forward in my career, I'm just like, it'll be okay. Like, this is just a part of the journey. And I'm embracing it. I think that you should embrace whatever comes along with on your journey. Not take it as like, oh, they told me no, so that's it. Like, they told me no, and maybe I need to do X, Y, and Z, and maybe it'll be a yes next time. So, yeah.
I'll say for me, I wish I had known that I actually had really fresh ideas. I think that we look at fashion and we think that it's on the cusp, but fashion is actually a very traditional industry, probably one of the most traditional industries, and it doesn't look like that from the outside. And there's so many new ideas that I'm coming up with now and talking to different brands about that are totally open, and I just wish that I had done that sooner. Okay. So I think that is all the questions that we have. Thank you guys so much. Did you enjoy the panel? I hope so.
Thank you.
We enjoyed being here with you. Thank you again so much for having us Matches Fashion. And I mean, we kind of look like a girl and guy, a singing group, right? But thank you so much to Sacsha, Trey, and Khalia for being here today and for giving us your time. Thank you for all of you who have sat here and listened to the panel and have been engaged. We so appreciate you. So thank you very much. I'll turn the mic over.
Thank you.